On May 2nd, 2023, I became mortgage-free at the age of 32.
What?
A mortgage will be the biggest debt that we ever take out in our life. And this same mortgage will be the thing that keeps a lot of you watching in a job that you don't like, just to be able to earn enough to keep a roof above your head. And while doing this, you're actually wasting time not being able to enjoy life, doing the things that you want to do. In this video, I'm going to share the 7 habits that I have followed that have allowed me to pay my mortgage off at the age of 32, obtain financial freedom to start living the life that I want to live without the pressure of having to stay in a job that I don't like just to keep a roof above my head. Over this past year alone, I have just to say over doubled my earnings to become mortgage free. Numero uno, living within your means. Now, I'm going to break this up into 2 areas. 1 is the property that you buy, and 2 is the lifestyle that you live. When I moved into my property, it cost £1,000. I wish it cost 1,000. It cost £156,500. I live in the northeast of England, so yeah, property is dead cheap here. And just because a mortgage company was going to lend me more money didn't mean that I took all of that. I bought within my means for what I wanted and with what I needed. So just have a think about what you really are looking for from a house, what stage of your life that you're at. Maybe you're already in a house that's far too big. What about considering downsizing to be able to actually not have to pay as much mortgage or not be in a mortgage for as long? The second part of living within your means is the lifestyle that you live in. Now, for me, my life revolves around the gym and around wrestling. I'm a pro wrestler. I wrestle on weekends up and down the country. I am a competitive bodybuilder, so I spend a lot of time in the gym. Now, the way that I eat, the supplements I take, isn't cheap. But for me, that's not an area that I'm willing to sacrifice, because that's the lifestyle that I want. That's the lifestyle that I want to live. And that's what makes me happy, being able to do those things. But as well as bodybuilding, as well as wrestling, there's other things in my life that bring me fulfillment. Reliving childhood moments through nostalgia. I'm a massive fan of everything to do with the 90s and the things that I've grown up with. Spending time with my girlfriend and spending time with my cats. I found pretty early on in life that spending money doesn't necessarily make me happy. It doesn't bring me any more joy. So find the things in life that actually bring you enjoyment, that bring you fulfillment, and make sure that those are the things that you're actually spending your time and your efforts on. For me, I can spend more money on food because it goes with my bodybuilding training lifestyle, because I'm not out there buying designer clothes, or I'm not going out drinking or partying on weekends. So just think about what brings you fulfillment in your life, what makes you happy, and then this goes into the next step: create a budget. Now, when I was younger, living at home, I did not have a budget at all. I didn't know what I was spending each week or each month. I didn't really care. And then when I moved out and I got a mortgage, I very quickly realised that I need to start budgeting. For the past couple of years, I have figured out exactly what my outgoings are every single month. Council tax, like your mortgage, utility bills, fuel for travel to work, debts, any loans that you're paying back. And again, this goes hand in hand with whatever your lifestyle is. My advice would be to figure out exactly what your monthly outgoings are every single month. Those are the things that without fail, they're not kind of optional purchases, just for you to live and just for you to survive. Figure out what that figure is. Now, the next habit, prioritizing your mortgage payments. Now, once you know what your budget is, you will have a figure then every single month of disposable income. That's money left over for you to do with whatever you want. Sometimes I buy Pokemon cards. Sometimes I buy computer games. Sometimes I buy extra protein. Sometimes I get that money and I just let it sit in the bank, build up, and then make a payment, an overpayment on the mortgage. What I did was I prioritized how much I was going to overpay on my mortgage, and I factored that in, so I knew each month before I start using any of that money buying all my nerd shit, I would know I need to save at least this much money to put away towards my overpayment. I then made full use of my annual overpayment allowance, which let me overpay. For me, that was 10% of my mortgage every single year. The next habit is find and take advantage of your money making superpower. When I hear other YouTubers talking like this, I just think, fuck's sake, like, yeah, it's easy for you to say that because you've got a YouTube channel with 1 million subscribers and millions of views in every video. So your side hustle is you making 10 grand a day just on ad revenue. I am not a big channel. Look at my subscriber counts, look at the views on my videos. Don't have a YouTube income that has allowed me to make extra money to pay my mortgage off quickly. That's not what I'm talking about here. However, for some of you, that might be the way that you use your money making superpower. For me, that's just not the case. What I'm talking about here can be broken down into 3 different areas. 1 is getting a side hustle. 2 is getting a second job. Or 3 is moving jobs to earn more money. Now, for the side hustle, this is going to be setting a business up alongside your full shoot job, okay? I work in digital marketing, so I was able to do little bits of freelancing here and there alongside working in industry to earn a little bit of extra money. I then got to the point where I set my own business up, I left the job I was in, and I was earning more money, okay? A side hustle can sometimes lead to a legit full-time career that pays way more than you would have done in your previous job. And that's what happened with me. Now, for me to get to that point, I had to work in industry for 11, 12 years to get the experience, make the contacts, to be able to be in the position I am in now, where I was able to do that. So, side hustle, what options do you have available? Advice would be, consider what you do for a living now. Is there a skill set there, or is there any part of that role that you could actually start to do on your own as a freelancer to start charging somebody for your services? Another route that I could have took would have been, I'm a competitive bodybuilder. On my channel, I actually post training videos, workout videos, diet videos. When I started making that content, I started getting people asking me for advice. When I started winning bodybuilding shows, I started getting people asking me in the gym for advice. I could use that to my advantage and set up a personal training service, an online coaching business. I haven't, but that's something that I could do. So think about what your shoot full-time job is, and think about what your hobbies are, what your interests are, what knowledge you've got, and how you could potentially monetize that. Start off as a side hustle, so you've got the security of your full-time job. See if you can build that up. It might be a nice bit of extra money to allow you to make those payments on your mortgage, or it might be something that could actually turn into a legit full-fledged company and be a new career for you. Other ways that I increased my earnings was I took on a second job. Back in 2016, I began lecturing part-time at universities, which was a really nice bump to the income I was getting from a full-time job. Now, I never took this income for granted. I never kind of started thinking, okay, this is my new baseline, because it's very ad hoc work. What I would do instead is just get that money, let it build up, nice lump sum, move it into a separate account, let it sit there. When it was time to make a payment, use that to make the payment on my mortgage. What I found though is by working for a number of universities, I was able to earn way more than what I could have earned if I pushed the amount of hours I was working as an employee in a full-time job. So my advice to you would be, if you find a part-time job that pays well, try and just line more work up with other companies that would allow you to take on more work. You have more than one employer, but you could potentially earn more than what you would be in your full-time job. And lastly, changing your job. I've never had a job where I've received a substantial pay increase. What I've found for me personally is that moving jobs, changing jobs, get you way more of a pay increase than what any employer would actually actively give you as a pay rise. I'd say on average, I'd stay at the company for 2 and a bit years before making the jump. And what I found that by making those jumps, the amount of money I was making every time I jumped up substantially. And this is actually what led me to setting my side hustle and own business up. Last year, I was in a job where I was massively underpaid and overworked. My boss got very greedy, wouldn't give me any more money, and then fast forward a year on, I've actually more than doubled my income by doing what I'm doing now than what I was as an employee. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in this video. Habit number 5 is second guessing everything. So what I mean by this is, rather than being impulsive and just buying things because you're like, oh, I fancy a new car, so I'm going to go buy a new car and I'm going to spend an extra 10 grand compared to the one I've got now. And then 3 months down the line, you're like, oh, actually I didn't need that. I've never ever just impulsively buy something. I will always think about it for a couple of days, couple of weeks, depending on how expensive or what kind of product it is. And if I still do want it in a few days time, in a few weeks time, I'll buy it. If I'm just a bit like, meh, I don't buy it. Habit number 6, avoiding new debt. Now the biggest one that I see people making, and the one that I have avoided and try to avoid, is car debt. I'm not a massive car person, but a couple of years ago, I bought a Honda Civic Type R, got wrote off, and then I got my insurance payout, and then I went and bought the upgraded model, savings from my bank, and I put the rest on a credit card. It was class, dead fast, but after a couple of months, if not a couple of weeks, the novelty of driving fast, putting your foot down and speeding off wore out pretty quickly. When I started seeing how much fuel it was costing, when I needed a new tyre replacing, I was like, yeah, this was a bit of a mistake. Number 32, I don't think I would ever pay that much for a car again. Don't get me wrong, that car wasn't even that expensive compared to other cars. I think it was expensive. The car cost over 24 grand. The point I'm making is, taking out debt on cars, on credit cards, loans, for things that you don't really need, you are just adding to those monthly outgoings. So you need to work more to be able to pay things off. And because you pay more money out, there's less money to save to then pay the mortgage off. So for me, it goes back to what I've just mentioned, second guessing everything. Do you really need this thing? Habit 7, sharing the same number as the last good mainline Star Wars film. Stay focused, stay motivated on that goal of getting the mortgage paid off. Now for me, my goal of wanting to pay my mortgage off was because I was working for an employer that just turned out a bit of a prick. I was promised extra money, I was promised shares in a company, I just never materialised. This particular boss just became a bit of a prick in general and made going to work a bit like, I thought to myself, I could just get another job. But I kind of ultimately thought that this cycle is just going to repeat over and over and over again. I wanted to get to a point where I could pick and choose the work that I could do. I wanted to get to a point where I was financially free, where if I don't really want to work, I won't, because I don't need to. For me, that was my biggest drive, my biggest motivator, to have that freedom back. The freedom to be able to pick and choose what I want to do. The freedom to have more time to not have to work as much. What means more to you? Is it having this newest model car? Is it having this latest technology? Is it having these designer clothes? Or would it be having less of an outgoing, which in turn means that you can work less, you have more time back? That was what kept me going, to keep saving, to keep putting the money away, and to keep making payments, and then to ultimately make the final big overpayment. So now I'm 32, I'm mortgage free, and I have way more financial freedom than what I've ever had at any point in my life. And I've got a lot more options now as to what I can do moving forward, because without having this mortgage payment every month, it means that I can either start working less on projects I don't particularly want to do and not have to think, well, I need it for the money. I can either buy my time back to spend with my girlfriend, cats, I love my cats, just doing things I want to do. Maybe I just continue working as I have done, earning a similar amount of money and just using the mortgage money as an investment to, make more passive income and grow wealth for when I'm older. And this past year has been like the kind of real light bulb moment, or the real eye-opening moment of increasing that earnings potential. Because whenever I would watch YouTubers say this before, I always kind of just took it with a pinch of salt, because I always thought it was easy for a YouTuber with millions of views making thousands of pounds a day through AdSense money just to say increase your earnings, because they're making a fortune from YouTube by just doing the YouTube videos. Look at this channel, 8k subs, couple of hundred views a video. I'm not making my money through YouTube. I have been able to make substantial overpayments over this past year alone since actually leaving employment in setting up my own business, I have just to say over doubled my earnings that I was making as an employee in 1 year. And because of that, it has massively allowed me to make those contributions to the mortgage to become mortgage free. Now, if you want to see how I was able to over double my earnings in just 1 year, check this video out here and subscribe for more.